it doesn't come from other people, and your value doesn't come from yourself. Your value comes from who God says you are. Hello and welcome to the Salt YouTube channel. My name is Gaz, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about insecurity. The first thing we need to understand is where insecurity comes from. Why do we as humans experience this thing called insecurity? We experience this reaction when we just don't feel like we're good enough. Maybe you don't feel like you're good enough for a friendship group, or you don't feel good enough for your partner or your parents. Or even sometimes we don't feel good enough for Jesus. And I think it's this huge part of this human experience of feeling like we're not good enough. The first point I've got to make is that that's a totally 100% valid emotion and feeling to have. And I can almost pretty much guarantee that every human being on earth has felt insecure about something at least once in their life. I know I've felt insecure about a lot of things in my life, but there's also like an unhealthy amount of this valid emotion or this valid experience. And the main focus of this video is not to invalidate the feelings of insecurity, because I get it, it's difficult and you can't just change it like that. But what I do want to try and achieve is this kind of mindset change, and try and hopefully give you some pointers and some tips about how to slowly start building your security in who you are as a person and build that confidence so you can have more flourishing relationships. If you put too much focus on what other people think, then you're just going to become more and more insecure. And there's a really good quote that I always say, and I think it's just so good, and it just really opened my mind up a little bit to this topic of being insecure. And that is, we spend money we don't have on things we can't afford and don't need to impress people who don't care. And I feel like that speaks to me quite a lot, in the fact that I spend too much money on stupid things I don't need. But a lot of the stuff we do in society is always because we want the approval of other people. If we focus too much on what other people think, your value is going to come from what other people think. That's obvious, right? But we just don't think about it. Oh, there's a pheasant. There's lots of pheasants around in Surrey. The other thing that we need to keep in mind is that we can't necessarily validate ourselves all the time. The Bible says the heart is deceitful above all things. No one can trust it. And we can say things about ourselves in the morning, like when we look in the mirror, and we can tell ourselves that we're not good enough and that we're failing in life, or we're procrastinating too much. And sometimes our biggest enemy is ourselves. And so don't be so hard on yourself. Work on self-talk. Work on being better at talking to yourself with kind words. The only place you can really get solid approval is from God, because he is the infinite being and his validation is infinitely more valuable than anyone else's. And so if we focus too much on what other people think of us and too much on what we say about ourselves, we're always going to be insecure. Whereas if we focus on what God says about us and what he thinks about us, then that is going to just free you up to be the best version of yourself. We have two ways of looking into this topic, and the first way is looking at stuff you can control and looking at things you can't control. My first suggestion to you guys is to try to focus on things you can control. For example, if I was to focus on things like the size of my ears, like I've got tiny ears. I'm not necessarily that insecure about my ears, I don't really care. But let's say I was super insecure about the size of my ears, and I felt like I was going to be rejected by loads of girls because of the size of my tiny ears. There's no point of worrying and stressing about that, because if a girl's going to reject me based on my ears, there's nothing I can do about that. If I focus on the things I can control, like going to the gym, eating healthy, and my personality traits, like being loving, kind, generous, those are things within my control. And I would suggest to you that if someone rejects you based on things you can't control, I don't think they're really a good person to be with. The last thing I want to do is I want to challenge you guys to try and focus on one thing you can control this week and do something about it. And then I would love to hear in the comment sections, what are the things you're insecure about at the moment? We want to create a community where we can challenge each other, support each other, and pray for each other. And I mean, the first number one thing that we need to always remember is that whatever you think your value is, like, it doesn't come from other people, and your value doesn't come from yourself. Your value comes from who God says you are. And God says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so just keep remembering that, keep praying into that, and ask for God's and just continue to ask God for his comfort in those moments of weakness where we feel super insecure, and just trust that he knows everything about you and he still chooses you and still loves you. Thanks for watching this video from Salt. If you like this video, then leave a like and subscribe, and we'd love to hear what you have to say in the comment section. See you in the next one.